am going to tell you something tonight that the scholars did not want you to know. What you have been reading in English is not what David wrote in Hebrew. And the difference between those two things has kept you poor, kept you struggling, kept you up at night, staring at this ceiling, wondering why your prayers go unanswered and your bank account tells a story you are ashamed of. I know what you are carrying right now. I have been sitting with struggling people for over 60 years. I know the face of someone who has been believing and believing and believing and still waiting. And I know what it looks like when that person finally receives the key that was missing. Tonight I am handing you that key. My name is Rabbi Shimon. I am 83 years old. I have buried friends, and I have watched miracles. I have stood at bedsides in hospitals, and I have stood at the thresholds of people's homes when abundance finally broke through after decades of drought. And in all my years, all of them, I have never seen anything unlock financial captivity the way these 7 words do. 7 words, that is all. 7 words that King David embedded in a single verse of Psalm 112, that your English Bible translated incorrectly, not carelessly, not accidentally. The mistranslation protected the establishment. Because if you knew what David actually said, if the church in the 16th century had left it alone, the entire economy of religious control would have collapsed. That is how powerful this is. So before I go any further, I need you to do something. Stop scrolling. Stop everything else you are doing right now and type in the comments the word Baruch. It means blessed. It means set apart for abundance. When you type that word right now, you are agreeing with heaven that you are the one this video was meant to find tonight. Not tomorrow, tonight. And press that like button, not for me, but because every like tells this platform to show this ancient truth to someone else who is drowning in financial despair and does not know there is a rescue coming. Go ahead, type Baruch. I will wait for you. Now let me take you somewhere. Let me take you back 3,000 years, and I want you to see something with your eyes, not just your mind. Picture the city of Jerusalem, not the Jerusalem of golden domes and tourist buses, the Jerusalem of dust and limestone and olive trees so old they remember Moses. The sun has just gone below the horizon. The Shabbat lamps are being lit in the windows. And in one of the great houses near the palace quarter, an old scribe, a sofer, is bent over a piece of parchment made from the skin of a lamb. His quill is made from a reed. The ink is made from oak galls and iron. He is not writing quickly. Every single letter is deliberate, because he believes the way the ancient rabbis always believed that every letter of the Torah and of the Psalms carries within it a living energy, a frequency, a divine code. He is transcribing Psalm 112. And when he reaches the 4th verse, the verse I want to show you tonight, he does not translate it. He writes it. He writes every letter of the original Hebrew the way David wrote it, because he knows. He knows what is inside those 7 words. He knows that those 7 words are not poetry. They are a financial decree from the throne room of heaven, and they work. He has seen them work. His grandfather saw them work. His great-grandfather survived persecution and exile and hunger by holding those 7 words like a man holds a lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. But then came the centuries of translation. First the Latin, then the German, then the English, and somewhere in that long passage from sacred Hebrew to common tongue, 7 specific words got softened, rounded off, made safe, made manageable. The wild, roaring financial authority that David encoded in those 7 words was reduced to a nice little comfort verse, and the people who most needed the power of the poor, the indebted, the broken, were handed a translation that could not save them. That stops tonight. Here is what your English Bible says in Psalm 112, verse 4. Most of your translations read something like this: even in darkness light dawns for the upright, for those who are gracious and compassionate and righteous. Beautiful, comforting, and almost completely wrong. The original Hebrew, written in what scholars call biblical Hebrew, a language so precise that a single letter can alter the entire meaning of a verse, says something utterly different. The 7 words I am talking about are these: Zarach Bachoshech, or Lai Sharim, and the next phrase that follows immediately, which most translators collapsed into a description of God, is actually a declaration David is making over himself and over every person who would one day read these words and believe them. Let me show you what each of these 7 words actually means. And I need you to pay close attention, because this is where your life is about to change. The first word is Zarach. Your Bible says dawns. But Zarach in Hebrew does not mean a gentle sunrise. Zarach is the word used when the sun erupts over the horizon after a long night. It is violent light. It is unstoppable light. It is light that does not ask permission. When David chose Zarach, he was not talking about a quiet improvement in your financial situation. He was declaring a sudden, violent, unstoppable eruption of divine provision into your life. Not a gradual improvement, a Zarach, an eruption. The great Baal Shem Tov once said, "The moment of a person's deepest darkness is not the sign that the light has forgotten them. It is the sign that the light is about to Zarach, to erupt, and darkness always intensifies right before the divine eruption." And when I first heard this teaching, as a young man sitting at the feet of my own Rebbe, I wept, because I understood. The darkness you are in right now is not punishment. It is the darkness that comes right before the Zarach. The second word is Bachoshech, in darkness. Now, here is where the translators made their first great error. They translated Bachoshech as though darkness is the context, as though David is simply saying that even though things are dark, light will eventually come. But in Hebrew, Bachoshech has a deeper legal meaning in the rabbinic tradition. The Talmud in Tractate Bava Batra uses this same root word to describe a legal condition, a state of being that is not permanent but bound. Bachoshech means you are currently under a covering that is blocking what heaven has already released for you. The light, the financial blessing has already been sent. It has already been decreed. It is already on its way. But there is a choshech, a covering, a blockage. And David, in that single word, is acknowledging the blockage without surrendering to it. This is so important for you to hear. Your struggle is not because God has forgotten you. Your struggle is because there is a choshech, a spiritual covering over the channel of your blessing. And we are about to dismantle it right now. The third word is or, light, but not any light. In Kabbalah, or refers specifically to the Or Ein Sof, the infinite, boundless light of the divine. When Kabbalists speak of Or, they are not speaking about earthly light. They are speaking about the primordial creative energy that God released on the first day of creation when he said, "Let there be light." That or is the energy of creation itself. And David is saying that this primordial creative energy, the very force that called the universe into existence, is Zarach, erupting into your Choshech, your darkness, right now. That is not a metaphor. That is a spiritual law. The fourth word is la, for, directed toward. This tiny word carries enormous weight in Hebrew grammar. La indicates intentional direction. God is not scattering this or randomly into the atmosphere. The Zarach is directed. It has your name on it. It is coming low for you, toward you, aimed at you specifically. The fifth word is Yesharim, the upright. Now, here is where the church made its most catastrophic translation error. Yesharim was translated as the righteous in most English Bibles, and righteous was then interpreted as morally perfect. And what happened? Millions of people read Psalm 112:4 and said, "Well, that's not for me. I have made mistakes. I am not righteous enough. This promise does not apply to me." The enemy used a bad translation to disqualify the very people this psalm was written for. But Yesharim does not mean morally perfect. Yesharim comes from the root word yashar, which means straight. It means someone who is moving in the right direction. A Yesharim is someone who has turned their face toward God, even if they are still walking through the mess of past decisions. Even if the debts they are carrying were caused by their own mistakes. Even if they feel unworthy and ashamed and not religious enough. If you are watching this tonight and you want things to change, if you have turned your face toward the truth, you are a Yesharim. This promise is for you. The sixth word is Shanun, gracious. And again, your English Bible translated this as a description of what kind of person the Yesharim should be. But in the original Hebrew grammatical structure, Shanun is a divine attribute being released over the Yesharim, not a qualification they must meet. The ancient rabbis who compiled the Midrash on Psalms wrote extensively about this verse, and their unanimous teaching is that Shanun here refers to divine favor being activated, the chesed, the loving kindness of God, flowing like water through a channel that has just been opened. Shanun is heaven's atmosphere descending on your situation. And the seventh word, the one that ties all six together, is tzedakah. Your Bible says righteousness, but tzedakah in Hebrew is not about moral purity. Tzedakah is the word for righteous giving, generosity. The act of releasing what you have so that heaven can release what it has. Ancient rabbis taught, and this is documented in the Talmud, in Tractate Bava Batra 9a, that tzedakah matzil mimavet, tzedakah saves from death. Maimonides, the greatest Jewish philosopher and physician of the medieval world, wrote in his Mishneh Torah, "A person is never made poor through the giving of tzedakah, and nothing bad ever comes as a consequence of it." And when I first encountered this teaching as a young rabbi in my 30s, watching families I knew practice it, and then watching their lives transform within months, I stopped treating tzedakah as an obligation. I started treating it as the on switch for the Zarach. Now, I want you to understand why this matters beyond just one verse, because there is a pattern hidden throughout all of Psalm 112 that the ancient Kabbalists called the Aleph pattern, the pattern of divine initiation. The psalm opens with a declaration of blessing on a man who fears the Lord. But the word translated as fears is yar, and yar in Hebrew does not mean afraid. It means awe, reverence, a holy awareness that God is present and active in the details of your life. Every cell in creation, every door that opens and closes, every phone call that comes at an unexpected moment. The man who lives in that awareness, whose entire orientation is yer, that man's children become mighty. His wealth endures. Proverbs 13:22 says, "The wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous." Stored up, already there, waiting. The question is never whether the blessing exists. The question is always whether your spiritual orientation, your yar, is aligned to receive it. And the 7 words of verse 4 are the mechanism of alignment. They are the switch. When David embedded these words into Psalm 112, he was not writing theology. He was writing instructions. Think about that for a moment. 3,000 years ago, a man who had been anointed and then forgotten, elevated and then hunted, celebrated and then betrayed, sat in a cave with dust on his sandals and grief in his chest, and wrote instructions. Not for himself alone, for you. He knew someone would be watching. He knew someone would be sitting in a moment of financial impossibility and would need a weapon. He wrote the 7 words for you, on purpose, with your name in mind. So let me give you the full true translation of Psalm 112:4. Now, not the softened, domesticated establishment version, the real one, an eruption of divine creative light, is violently breaking through the covering that has been blocking your blessing, and it is aimed precisely at the one who has turned their face toward God, releasing divine favor and the financial activation that comes through righteous generosity. That is what David wrote. That is what he spoke over his own finances when he had nothing. And that is what he is speaking over your life right now, through these 7 words across 3,000 years. Now I need you to stop with me for a moment. Before I give you the 3-step activation practice, and you must do all 3, not 1, not 2, all 3, I need you to type something in the comments right now. Type the word shalom. Not because it is a tradition, not because I am asking for engagement, but because shalom is not just the Hebrew word for peace. Shalom comes from the root shalem, which means complete, whole, nothing, missing nothing, broken. When you type shalom in this moment, you are declaring over your finances that the era of brokenness is ending and the era of completeness is beginning. This is a declaration that carries weight in the spiritual realm. Type it right now. Shalom. Now, the 3-step activation. The first step must be done tonight before midnight. Take a piece of paper, not your phone, not a digital note, a physical piece of paper, and write the Hebrew letters of these 7 words as best you can. You do not need to be a Hebrew scholar. The intention of your hand and the faith in your heart are what open the channel. If you cannot write Hebrew, write the transliteration Zarach Bachoshech or La Yesharim Chanun Vadzadik. Write it slowly. Say each word out loud as you write it. The ancient teachers called this kavanah, intentional alignment. Your voice and your hand working together create a vibration that the spiritual world responds to. Do this tonight. The second step is to be done for 3 consecutive mornings. Morning is critical. The rabbis teach that the gates of divine provision open at dawn. This is why the ancient temple service began at sunrise, not noon, not evening, at dawn, for 3 mornings in a row, before you eat, before you check your phone, before you speak to another human being, stand facing east and read Psalm 112 aloud in its entirety. Not silently, out loud. Your voice is not decoration. Your voice is an instrument of creation, the same way God spoke and the universe appeared. Your voice, speaking these ancient words, activates the decree David embedded in them. Do this 3 mornings in a row without skipping. The number 3 in Scripture is the number of confirmation. When something happens 3 times in the Torah, it is established permanently. The 3rd step must be done on the 3rd day. On the 3rd morning after you read Psalm 112, you must perform an act of tzedakah. Give something. It does not need to be large. The amount is less important than the intention. When you give on the 3rd day, after 2 mornings of declaration, you are completing the circuit. You are telling heaven, I believe. I believe enough to release. And in the economy of the divine, releasing always precedes receiving, always, without exception. In over 60 years of pastoral work, I have never seen this pattern fail when it was followed with sincerity. But I want to give you a 4th action that the ancient teachers called the choke the hidden statute. It is not commanded in writing. It was transmitted orally from Rebbe to student for hundreds of years. It is this: on the evening of the 3rd day, sit in silence for 7 minutes. No music, no television, no phone. 7 minutes of intentional stillness. And in that stillness, speak aloud the names of 3 people you know who are also in financial difficulty. Not to gossip, not to analyze their situation, simply to invoke them. Speak their names and say after each one, may the Zarach erupt in their darkness also. When you use the power that has just been activated in your life to bless others, you create what the Kabbalists call a garment of light. And that garment protects the blessing you have received. It seals it. It keeps the enemy from stealing what heaven has just released. This is why generous people stay blessed. It is not luck. It is spiritual law. Now I want to speak to someone. Someone watching this right now has been in a financial situation so dark that they have not told anyone the full truth of how bad it is. Not their spouse, not their best friend, certainly not their pastor or their rabbi. You have been carrying the weight of financial shame alone for months, maybe years, and the isolation of it has been almost as painful as the debt itself. You have been afraid to open certain envelopes. You have rehearsed conversations with creditors you are not sure you can have. You have lain awake running numbers through your mind at 2 a.m, trying to make something add up that refuses to add up. I see you, and I want you to understand something with every part of your being. The shame you are carrying is not yours. The spirit of poverty does not travel alone. It brings with it a companion spirit that the Kabbalists called Tzimtzum Shelev, a contraction of the heart, a shrinking, a silencing. It makes you feel small. It makes you feel disqualified. It whispers that your situation is too far gone, too complicated, too embarrassing, even for God to address. That is a lie. It is one of the oldest lies in the world. And David, the same David, who was hiding in a cave, surrounded by 400 broken, indebted, despairing men, wrote these 7 words as a weapon against that exact lie. The Zarach, the eruption, is aimed at you, not at someone more righteous, not at someone with a better prayer life or a larger offering, at you, the one who is watching this alone tonight, the one who typed Baruch into the comments even when faith felt thin, the one who is still here, still watching, because somewhere in your spirit you know that this is not just another YouTube video. This found you. You did not find this. This video found you because heaven needed to get this key into your hands tonight. Rabbi Akiva, perhaps the greatest Torah sage who ever lived, was once a shepherd who could not read. He had nothing. He was 40 years old and illiterate and the son of a convert. And one day he stood at the mouth of a spring and watched how the water had, over years of flowing, carved a channel in solid rock. And he said to himself, if water, soft water, can carve through hard stone, then the words of Torah can carve through the hardness of my life. He became the greatest scholar of his generation. He said, beloved is the person, for they were created in the image of God. But what the Talmud records in the name of Rabbi Akiva, the teaching that changed everything for him, is this, that the divine image means divine capacity. You were created with a capacity for abundance encoded in you. Poverty is not your nature. Scarcity is not your inheritance. It is a carving that circumstances made on the rock of your life. And the water of these ancient words will carve it away. I have watched this happen. I watched it happen to a woman in my congregation in the late 1980s, a single mother with 4 children working 2 jobs behind on everything. She came to me on a Thursday night. I gave her these 7 words. I walked her through the 3-step practice. The following Tuesday, 5 days later, she received a phone call she had not expected. I will not go into the details, but what I will tell you is that within 30 days, her financial situation had shifted so dramatically that she came back to me and sat in that same chair and could not speak for several minutes. She just wept. And then she said, Rabbi, this was already prepared for me, wasn't it? And I said, my dear, it has been prepared since before you were born. You simply received the key. Your breakthrough is not being created in response to your prayer tonight. Your breakthrough was prepared before the foundations of the world were laid. You are not asking God to build something new. You are asking Him to open the door to what He already built. That is the difference. That is what these 7 words unlock. Now let me tell you how to close this out, how to seal what has been opened in this hour. Take that piece of paper where you wrote the 7 words. Fold it once. Place it inside your wallet behind every card and every bill you carry. Not as a superstition, not as a lucky charm, as a declaration that every financial transaction you make is now under the authority of Psalm 112:4. That the Or, the divine creative light, is present in every moment of your financial life. Every purchase, every payment, every deposit, every act of tzedakah. The paper is a reminder, not a talisman. It reminds your eyes and your mind every time you open your wallet that the Zarach is active over your finances. And subscribe to this channel. I need you to hear me on this. I am 83 years old. I do not have unlimited time. Every week I release on this channel ancient wisdom from texts that most people will never have access to. Wisdom from the Zohar, from the Talmud, from the Siddur, from the teachings of the great Rebbes. Wisdom that was guarded for centuries in the yeshivot of Eastern Europe, in the Beit Midrash of Babylon, in the libraries of Cairo and Toledo and Safed. I am releasing it here because the urgency of this moment in history demands it. subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share this video tonight with one person, just one, who is in financial pain. Because when you place this key into someone else's hand, you are performing an act of tzedakah. And tzedakah, righteous giving, is the on switch for the Zarach. Pin this declaration in the comments, or write it on the back of the paper where you wrote the 7 words. I receive the Zarach. My covering is broken. My blessing is erupting now. Say it out loud, right where you are sitting. Your voice matters. Your declaration matters. David did not write these words in silence, and neither should you receive them in silence. I want to close now with a word spoken directly over you, not over this audience generally, over you specifically, the one who has been watching this and feeling something shift inside, a warmth, a hope, a quiet rising certainty that things are about to change. That feeling is not emotion. That is the oar making contact with your spirit. Do not dismiss it. Do not manage it back into skepticism. Let it be what it is. Let it be the beginning. May the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, the God who opened the sea for Moses, who multiplied the oil in the widow's jar, who took a shepherd boy from the fields of Bethlehem and made him the wealthiest king in the history of the ancient world. May that same God open the ancient gates of provision over your life this week. May the Zarach erupt in your choshek before this month is finished. May every door that has been shut against you be not merely opened, but removed from its hinges. May the spirit of tzimtzum, of contraction and shame be broken from your finances by the power of these 7 words that King David spoke and that heaven still honors today. May you know, before the season is over, a breakthrough so undeniable that you return to this video and leave a testimony in the comments for the next person who is sitting tonight where you are sitting right now. This is not the end of your story. This is the verse where the Zarach begins. Shalom.